I would like to introduce a good friend of mine. He's a Nahuatl teacher, educator, and he teaches the Huasteca variant of Nahuatl. He's going to share some of his history, his efforts, what he's doing, and then hopefully we'll be able to get you linked in with him. So if you would, Kwitlawak, it's all yours.
Kena tlaskamatimiak noyolikni pampa naman niitzto guayata. Nanotoka Kwitlawak, Juanotzokisca Rola Martinez, Nani Nahuatl Tlamachtiquetl tlen Tlahtolapasoli, Juan speaknahuatl.com. Thank you so much, brother, for having me here. My name is Kwitlawak. My last name is Rola Martinez. I'm a Nahuatl language teacher from Tlahtolapasoli, which is a Nahuatl study collective here in so-called Los Angeles, Tongva and also on my end, I have speaknahuatl.com. So this all started. I mean, Kwitlawak is my real name. I think that's that's probably where it all started as well. I think when I was younger, all they would tell me is that it's a Aztec name. Es un nombre azteca, and that's all I knew, you know.
Right.
And just my whole life, it was kind of it was part of my identity because it was my name. So basically, like every year, teachers would always be so puzzled and confused, and like, where are you from? Some of the kids like, what are you? Like, are you Indio? Like, um, so then um, about maybe like 6 years ago, April 2015, I went to Mexico City. And so, I'm from Mexicali, traditional lands of the Cocopa and Kumeyaay. And so in the borders, like half of the people were like, oh, they know how to pronounce it. Half of the other people like, how do you pronounce this? Como de donde eres, And so when I crossed over here, it was more of that, like, what is your name? And so when I went to Mexico City, it was the opposite. Lo estaban pronunciando muy bien. They were pronouncing it correctly, like nothing. And so it kind of sparked, kind of like maybe also planted a seed in my head, like, oh wow, like, let me, because I had been like a love-hate relationship with my name. So I think that helped me, be proud of that name. Um, and so when I was in the Zocalo, like me and my friend were walking, right? I had never been to Mexico City, so just being there was like this energy that I don't know, I could not describe it. And so I started crying. And my friend was like, "Why are you crying? You should be happy." I'm like, "Well, I don't know. There's just this energy, like, and just learning that, that the Okali were there, the temples, and how those were used to create the church that's there. And so that kind of also was part of it. I didn't know that till then. So then, after that, like, that kind of sparked more to dig deeper, to read more, but like to find more of an indigenous point of view, because of course all these colonial states, it's all Eurocentric education and how great Europe is. And that's another that could be another episode. But yeah, so I started doing more activism, and I've always, in the past, I've always been an activist out there on the streets, for fighting civil rights. Um, and so I started doing like some dancastic. That kind of didn't work out. I needed more practice on dancing. Did more activism. Then Trump came into office. That accelerated me to you know, dig deeper into my roots and also help our people, you
Mhm.
know, in one way, in whatever way possible. And so, flash forward August 2016, Facebook event, Free Nawa class by Yang Garcia.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is it. You know, this is it. This is what I've been wanting to do. And, you know, when I went to that event, it was at a park and there was like about 50 to 60 people there. You know, 50 to 60 like brown folk there, you know, and that felt empowering. You know,
Right.
it's like, wow, this sparked interest. And even Jan himself, I remember he was just so like, whoa, there's so many people. Um, and so like, you know, desde entonces, since then, just like every Sunday we would go, you know, and then people just started falling off. Then there was like 15 of us and 12 of us, and then like 10 and like so on. And so like now
Right.
it's like 5 or 6 of us. But
Mhm.
every Sunday, you know, and then they kicked us out because for some reason we couldn't be there. I
Yeah.
mean, I think, you know, a Karen or a Kevin called. They noticed that brown folk were, you know, organizing every Sunday, you know. So they kicked us out. We ended up at a friend's house, but every Sunday, you know, every Sunday. Then we ended up at Eastside Cafe. Um, very thankful for them. It's a community center in East LA. And also very thankful to the folks, native speakers from EDS, as well as Cana,
Mhm.
Eduardo de la Cruz, Abelardo de la Cruz, Ofelia de la Cruz, which is also one of my teachers. Very thankful for them because they created all these resources that we
Mhm.
were able to use in order for us to learn, you know. And yeah, it's just like a few months later, you know, Diego is also part of the collective, so he's very knowledgeable.
Mhm.
So he started teaching after Jan and another one of our friends. And a couple months later, after we were learning, like Jan was like pushing me and another compañero to like teach. And I was like, I'm not ready. And
Right.
he's like, hey, this is the only way you're gonna capture. You know, um, you're gonna be able to practice what you've learned. You know, and reinforce it. I'm like, well, you're right. You know, so they started teaching in like about I think July, August of 2017
Yeah,
or
because
so.
teaching makes you learn. You have to
Mhm.
be prepared for all the questions of your students, right?
Mhm. Mhm. So yeah, the first day, you know, every time we had a new beginners class start, there was just a lot of people, so I was nervous. So sure enough, there was like, you know, I don't think it was like 50, 60 people. It was probably like 30, 40 people.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was enough for to make me nervous, you know.
Right. Right.
But like, you know, as I went along, like you know, I got more confident. I started learning more, you know. Jan would always, you know, he always supporting us. Um, and so, you know, I was doing all of this, you know, and I was working on a corporate job Monday through Friday, regular, you know, thing that we have to do in this capitalistic world, quote unquote, regular. So I was just tired of it. You know, I had been there for like 10 years and then, you know, they finally let me off. I was waiting for that actually. And so I just kind of was just like, what do I do? You know, like this daily routine, waking up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, what do I do? You know, and then I started, you know, all the resources that I have and the dictionaries. And I'm like, I started learning more. And I'm like, hey, I'm like, maybe I could just teach people, like not just like in person, but also online, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it was like February or March of 2018 is when I started speaking Nahuatl. It was
Mhm.
different. It was now Nahuatl Mostla. So Nahuatl every day.
Uh-huh.
And so I was just like, okay, let's just do like Google Hangouts. I started with groups. Then for a while, it was a lot of one-on-ones.
Mhm.
Um, and so like people started noticing that I was teaching online, and then like local like homeschools, Semitas from Long Beach, Unidos Homeschool from Santa Ana, and then Tlali House, I believe they were from Eagle Rock. So I just started teaching like maybe one here and there.
Mhm.
Um, Teaching children was very fulfilling. It was like beyond, because it was just like
Yeah,
mostly it just like, whoa, you pronounce it exactly as I said it. It was just so fulfilling. Like
they're
gave
like
me
little
chill.
sponges, right?
Exactly.
They just
Like.
uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um, and so from then, like I started, with the help of my friend Citlali, I started teaching at Pasadena City College too. They offered me like, oh, 6 weeks, you can teach here. And I
Uh-huh.
was like, whoa, perfect, like let's do it, So after that, I told the students like, oh, do you I want to continue? I don't mind, like you can give donations or not, it doesn't matter, like I'll be here, and ever since then, like I have been teaching at Pasadena City College, some workshops at like Cal State Fullerton, with Profe Gilberto. Thank you so much for he's an amazing professor allá in Cal State Fullerton, I believe also Long Beach City College, um, and then at Cal State Monterey Bay, mostly around like Dia de los Muertos is when,
Right.
they do request me to like give a workshop. Um, and then, as a collective, UC Riverside, San Bernardino Valley College, um, and yeah, like, it's been an amazing journey. It's been beyond belief. Like, and then up until March of last year, I was still at Pasadena City College, just going there like every Friday. And then the pandemic hit, so then like everything just turned online.
Yeah.
There's always been interest, but last year, because of the pandemic, because a lot of folks were at home, it was overwhelming. It was like beyond overwhelming. Like I would put out the link to sign up, and like 50 people like right away, and then
Blew up.
still people wanted to like sign up. I'm like, I can't. I'm only one teacher.
Yeah.
So I was also encouraging my compañeros to start teaching, start teaching online,
Yes.
and then like some like Diego started on YouTube. And I have another compañero, and then I think, in the spring, Jan also had a class.
Mhm.
So that kind of helped out with like spreading the workload.
Yeah, I took Jan's class. I was it was great. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
and
he's amazing.
Patrick's class as well.
Mhm.
So if I can interject with the question, can you explain a little bit about the variante that you're teaching? Like, because a lot of people they think Nahuatl, they think it's all the same. They say if you say one word and this, like, there's only one way to speak Nahuatl. So can you explain like a little bit about the variant that you teach, where it's from?
hmm Yeah, so, we learn and teach mostly the one from the Huasteca,
Mm-hmm.
specifically the one from Chicontepec, Veracruz.
Okay.
In the spring, I think around March, April, I also have a teacher, Tlatuanitzin. Shout out to him too. He's on Instagram and YouTube. He's also from the Huasteca, but he's from Tamazunchale, San Luis Potosí. So I've been learning like two dialects, and also some from Hidalgo as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, so there's like 21 to 31 dialects roughly, depending on who's categorizing them. So yeah, it's important to stick to one variant. There's just no one way to say things. There's just so many ways to say them. Um, And again, very thankful to our teachers, Eduardo de la Cruz, Abelardo de la Cruz, Ofelia de la Cruz, Delfina de la Cruz. So all of them, very thankful for
Yes.
them to take the time to create all those resources, and they're still teaching. They're
Right.
still
Right.
teaching. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. The De La Cruzes are pretty infamous in teaching right here in Mexico. Um,
Hmm.
and they're great teachers. They have lots of resources. They put in a lot of work, a lot of work. They're kind of like idols of mine, probably yours too.
Uh-huh.
So, how long would you say? Because I know everybody wants to know this. How long would you say it took you to become like conversation, where you could have a basic conversation in Nahuatl?
Um, I think, yeah, like that's one of the questions I would get all the time. Like,
Always.
how long does it take? And I'm like, it depends on you. It depends on you. Because learning a language is a lot of work,
Mhm.
a lot of discipline. You know, a lot of like keep going. If you're not making mistakes, you're not learning. So just I encourage everyone to, if you really want to learn, um, just surround yourself with all kinds of resources, videos, audios, songs, workbooks, vocabulary lists, dictionaries. um, I think learning Nahuatl, I found my true passion because language has had always been a passion for me. Because like cuando me vine por acá, moving across these colonial borders, like I had to immediately learn English. So my kids would go out, be out and playing soccer, basketball, what have you, but I would be at home reading dictionaries. So reading dictionaries has also helped me learn a lot because I read the monolingual dictionary, and then like if I find a word I don't know within that definition, then I go to that one. And that's exactly how I would do it with English,
Right.
reading the definition. If I don't know that word, then I go to that word. So I'd say, you know, I mean, and even on Sundays, we would study for like hours, like 8, 9, 10 hours every Sunday sometimes. And so like I say 3 years if you are really persistent with it and everyday learning. And I know that we have our jobs. Some of us have kids, we have partners, and we have other responsibilities. But it's just like maybe 5 minutes in the morning, do a reading or learn a new word. 5 minutes before lunch or during your lunch, 5 minutes after dinner. Have like a schedule where you can learn like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And that adds up throughout the week.
Right.
So being persistent is key, and not giving up. Not giving up is key. Hmm.
Yeah. It's a little. I think you get like you cross a little point when you start like dreaming about words and phrases. Once that happens, it's like you're getting somewhere. You're
Uh-huh.
getting to a point. Yes,
Uh-huh.
I agree. So roughly maybe 3 years if you're a really persistent student, really studying a lot.
Hmm. I mean, that's from my experience.
Yeah,
Uh-huh. Hmm.
I agree with that too. That's what I was thinking too. So can you share a little bit about your classes? Because we want to definitely put the links here, and I know you probably have a lot of people, but there's a waiting list. There's a waiting list. So
Hmm.
how are your classes? 30 minutes, hour? How are you structure them?
It, ever since, I started online, it's been kind of, how can I describe it? Kind of a learning experience as I go along.
Right.
Because there's been times, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, where it's just like the middle of the class, like, oh no, this is not working. So it's kind of like, um, learning how people learn, learning teaching methods. it has also helped me improve, and
Mhm.
like learning from my teachers how they teach and incorporating that into my lessons. Um, I know that like my classes had been like an hour before
Mhm.
one-on-ones, then they transferred into like an hour and a half. Then like a full semesters of like 16 weeks, and it's like 3 hours every week. Um, but I think now what how I've been doing it is just like 1 hour. I'm gonna starting this semester in the fall. It's gonna be 1 hour a week of just learning. And it's different methods, and that was kind of a challenge.
Mhm.
Because in person, you know, you have all these social cues. You see how people are looking at you. Are they getting it? They're not getting it. Like you see their body language. But like on Zoom, it's just like, oh, you just see like a, maybe just like neck up. You know.
Right, right.
Um, so it was kind of a challenge to incorporate those teaching methods into the Zoom class. Like for example, there's this teaching method, where are your keys, which you can use with any language. It's a language realization method in which you take about 4 items, you repeat a lot of repetition, and you ask,
Mhm.
what's this? What is this? Is this that? Ashkana, is this? Saying those words.
Right, right.
So kind of like letting students like, okay, grab something that you have around you, like making it as as in person as possible, right?
Right.
And also using total physical response,
Mhm.
especially with commands, like shimoketsa, stand up, shimosewi, sit down. So incorporating that as well. And with my more advanced classes, it can get into like just all of us speaking Nahuatl.
Mhm.
And that's the ultimate goal, to just teach in Nahuatl in the advanced classes.
Mhm.
um, because it's it's a worldview, one language.
Mhm.
So if you get like English and Spanish into it, you're gonna get these worldviews that do not align with Nahuatl,
Right.
So it's like, for example, like saying, people ask a lot, like, how do you say please? Like, it's there's doesn't translate directly, you know.
Right.
It doesn't
Exactly.
translate directly. You can add like the onshi onkochi, would you please, like you add a particle inside, but it doesn't translate directly. And that's also something that in the beginning of all beginners classes is like, you know, letting them know that Nahuatl does not belong to the same language family as Spanish and English. So Spanish and English have similarities because they're part of the same language family, you
Right.
know. And so Nahuatl is not at all. Is not part of it.
No.
Um, is also
Because the first things they want to learn is like, please, hello, how are you? And we have those in our different variants, but slightly different, right? They don't really
mhm,
translate like you said. I guess you
mhm,
could say they're equivalents, maybe kind of equivalents.
mhm.
What you say?
Yeah, like for example, like yawi in San Luis Potosí, yawi is like it's kind of like hello, but
Mhm.
not really. It's kind of a reduction of ken yawi, like
Mhm.
como vas,
Mhm.
So like it's a rough translations is what I say. Like Biyali is another one. Hello, Yali, which is a reduction. That's how they say in Hidalgo. Those are all greetings that don't necessarily mean hello or hola, but are somewhat the equivalent.
Right. So
Hmm.
okay. Yeah. So how would you say, or I know you said you're learning like some other dialects within the Huasteca, like Tamasonchale, or how would you say? Have you had time to speak with other speakers from other parts of Mexico, like Guerrero, Centro, Puebla, or something?
Yeah. like for example, like yeah, like different native speakers kind of reach out to me, it's message me. Like there's even some rappers that like send me their songs. I'm like, whoa, this is dope, you know. Um, yeah, like it's so beautiful to see like the for lack of a better word, diversity in the language, you know, and how like it just kind of like I understand what they're saying, you know, but I was like, whoa, this is cool, this is so different. um yeah, like for example, like this native speaker from Estado de Mexico, you know, we started chatting, and so like, you know, he uses classical orthography,
Right.
and you know, this is how that's how I learned with the classical orthography. And you know, and my friend from Atisco Puebla also uses classical orthography, and then my teacher uses, you know, the ortografía moderna, so called, you know, and then now we are with the new orthography. So yeah, it's beautiful that, you know, as you go along, as you keep learning, and also like watching your videos too with the dialect from your from Tushpan, right?
Mhm.
Being able to understand it, you know, and how it's still the same kind of worldview. It's just kind of like como like beautiful, as also like coming from the heart, not like from like your head and like logic, you know, speaking from the heart. Like with all those words that have yol, you know, yol paki,
Right.
yol tetik, you know, to be brave. And um yeah, it's just it's I've been able to chat, you know, with those folks as well. And I have been planning to go to Mexico, you know, and just be there and like and be amongst the culture and you know the foods and everything. Pero pues the pandemic hit, you know. A ver cuándo.
Yeah, I think that'll be like that'll even elevate your Nahuatl to another level, being in the community there, where it's just what they call that full immersion. You know,
Yeah. Mhm.
be there speaking it.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So another question I had for you was, okay, so right now your main platform will be the speaknahuatl.com.
Yes. Mhm.
So I want to put that on there so they can contact you. Do you have a waiting list right now? Or you got, or is it kind of
I
maybe be open, some openings?
I I don't. I don't. I just don't want to add more workload on me.
No.
I just say, you know, just stay posted. There's no sign up link. There's no wait list. Just turn on notifications. Speak Nahuatl. That's mostly where on the Instagram. That's where mostly folks, you know, end up there.
Mhm.
Um, you know, and like all those followers, they're all like natural, just like people following, just like, you know, on a daily, at least like 10, 15 folks like follow, you know.
Right.
um yeah, it's just first come first serve. Yeah. Hmm.
And what was I going to ask you? Or are you making videos? Do you record these classes, or is it
Yeah.
it's
Hmm.
only is it private, or do you share them?
Yeah, so for classes, yeah, I do record them and send them to students.
Uh-huh.
And then now, I've been, you know, encouraged, and then mirroring what my compañeros are doing, Jan and Diego. So I started like a YouTube where it's just those classes too.
Okay, great.
Uh-huh. So
What's the name of the YouTube?
so you can go to like youtube.com/Qui A Martinez. So if you look up Qui space A Martinez,
Okay.
you'll find my YouTube channel. And
Okay.
I plan to do one lesson a week.
Okay.
Um, and so yeah, I mean that's also for folks. You know, we try to do it, you know, for the community, you know, everything for the community, not coming from a very linguistic point of view, even though I'm kind of like beginner linguist. I want to be able to teach it to the community, like, and not bringing like very like academic like terms.
Right. That's hard. That for me, that's like super hard. Like not to use all the linguistic jargon, as they say.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Because
I mean,
we
you
learn
have
that way.
exactly. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Now, on your journey in learning Huasteca Nahuatl, did you begin like with the classical, so-called classical Nahuatl, and then, or did you begin just with Huasteca?
With Huasteca with classic orthography.
Okay, just the orthography, but you began with this variant. Okay.
Yes. And so like Jan also does teach us classical, also Diego, like during in-person classes. So I do have a knowledge of classical Nahuatl as
Yeah.
well. But I mainly focus on modern variants.
Right.
Um, and I do this because there's a lot of people that focus in classical Nahuatl variants,
Mhm.
because there's variants within classical, what's called classical
Right.
Nahuatl, right? And it's kind of like being stuck in like this time, 15, 16, 17 centuries. And I understand, like learning classical as well and reading the dictionaries as well is fundamental. Like definitely need it. But the way that I see it is just like y'all are stuck in like it's kind of like reading Shakespeare over and over. And it's just like I think that we need to stop thinking in the past. This is not in the past. This language is still being spoken. So I mainly focus on what so-called modern variants. Even they're also, like I said, like in your video, I noticed, like calling them modern variants, but it's just like, this language is still alive, you
Right.
know. So I mainly focus on Huasteca. Hmm.
Okay. And one more question. So I know like we use the term Nahuatl, right? Nahuatl in general for the language, but I know in some communities they have like their own special term, whatever that may be, Masahuatlatoli or something like that. Mexicano in Jalisco we say Mexicano. Is there a word in the Huasteca variant here that you know and teach for Nahuatl, or do they use Nahuatl?
Some of my teachers use Nahuatl. Some of my teachers say Meshkat.
Meshcat,
Meshkat. Meshkat.
Mexicatlatoli, Meshcat.
Uh-huh. Meshkat. I like the sound of that one. Meshkat.
Yeah, Meshcat. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I've heard people say that one too. So I wanted to ask how it was said in Chicontepec, what term, because
Mhm.
it seems like Nahuatl, the word Nahuatl, is kind of starting to overpower like some regional variant ways of saying referencing to the language.
Mhm. Yeah, like Mexicano, right? There's some that like identify as the language as Mexicano, and like the one in Durango, I believe Mexicanero,
Yeah,
right?
Mexicanero.
And so also let's not forget also the one from El Salvador, right? Nahuatl,
Nahuatl.
Nahuatl,
Uh-huh.
Nahuatl without the L.
Nahuatl. Uh-huh.
And then they're not using the word PP anymore, just Nahuatl. Hmm.
Right. Yeah, that's why I was saying that. It's because I think it's important to respect the variant. You know, if uh, the Nahuatl speakers in El Salvador, they don't want to be referred to as pipil as far as their language, because that's what everybody used to call them. We should do our best to learn the name and utilize that in reference to that group.
Hmm. Exactly. Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's great. Well, can you before we wrap up, can you share with us a little bit of Huasteca Nahuatl, a phrase or so, something that maybe that you really like? I think we all have like phrases or words that we we like more than others for some reason.
Mhm.
I don't know. Can you share with us something like that?
I really love one way to ask how are you or how do you feel somewhat translates to that.
Uh,
Tlen kihtoa moyoltsi. Tlen kihtoa moyoltsi, right? Or tlen tlehtoa moyoltsi, right? So what does your heart say, right?
okay.
I really like that one. I
Yeah.
think that when one of my compañeros asked me that, I'm like, that's too personal, But I think over time, I'm like, oh, that's beautiful, to ask like, how does your heart feel. I think that's one of the faces I love.
And what would be like a general basic response, like if you're feeling good, let's say?
You could answer saying ni itztok kwali, uh,
Needs to
or
quali,
or just kwali.
quali,
Sometimes you're not feeling good, you're not feeling bad, so you could say san kwali.
san quali.
hmm
Okay.
Yeah, or like ash kwali, not good, amo kwali. You could
Quali.
answer with the actual, how you actually feel. Like, tell me how you really feel. Like, niyol paktok, I'm happy, or niyol kwesihtok, I'm sad. You know, nimo kwesohtok, estoy preocupado, I'm worried. Um, yeah, it's just different ways of answering that question.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Great. Thank you so much, Tlaskamati. I really appreciate being able to will interview you to be able to help share your story for all the English speakers out there. I was a little nervous because first time like kind of interviewing somebody, even though I talk to people every day in English, and now it's, but hopefully I can get you back here because I would love to do like I told you before the comparison, comparative between like Huasteca Nahuatl and Jalisco Nahuatl, Mexicano, some of the similarities and a little bit of the differences because I think they're really interesting.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, cualtitok.
Okay.
Like the side by side. Yeah,
Side by
definitely.
side. Because I
Uh-huh.
think I forgot the other brother's name, the one that teaches the Nahuatl from El Salvador. Uh, he
I
he
think
had,
it's Nahuatl, Timumachtikan.
yeah, Matimo Mastica, something
Oh,
like that.
Matimumachtika. Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and he did the one with the Huasteca speaker.
Mm.
It was really interesting because a lot of the El Salvador now was really exactly the same or similar to Jalisco, and I don't know, like maybe there's some connection long time ago, obviously, but yeah, I would like to do that with the Huasteca because they also teach that here in Jalisco. They teach that variant, and
Mm-hmm.
so I would like to do a comparison.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, Victoriano is one of the teachers in Guadalajara.
And
Uh-huh. And then
the initiative they started here in Tuxpan also focuses on that with the kids. But what
mm-hmm.
we're trying to do is we're trying to get get ours back in there as
Yeah,
well.
for sure.
So
Uh-huh.
mhm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, but I really appreciate it, Tlaskamati and
Ashlen, Amotlen.
Shkeno. Okay, I'll talk to you next time. Thank you, and I'm gonna put this up, all the links and everything. All right,
Kena tlaskamati miak noyol igni. Timoitase wan kualishi itzto.
that's it.